For years, the quest to promote locally made products has been an on and off affair. This has made it difficult for homegrown producers to either find market or solutions to their challenges. Subsequent governments since independence have made attempts, but not full exploits. This has often left the Made in Kenya label without the necessary support and noise to take over the market. Going forward, Business Now has made a deliberate plan to highlight and celebrate the entrepreneurial spirit of Kenyans. We shall, from today, in every episode, showcase Kenyan manufacturers doing the most, surmounting challenges to remain steadfast in their quest to promote locally made products. We're counting on you, our viewer, to help us in this rallying call for Made in Kenya. Good afternoon, I'm Yvonne Okwara Matole, and this is Business Now, the show that celebrates Kenya's entrepreneurial spirit. But first, here are the highlights. On the show today, we highlight what it takes to make it locally as a manufacturer. What challenges exist for local manufacturers and how do they navigate them? And we premiere our new segment, Made in Kenya, where we feature local manufacturers espousing Kenya's entrepreneurial spirit. And today, as we premiere that series, we also have a few of them here with me in studio. We'll be talking about that Made in Kenya. Quick question for you. Would you buy products from a company that is made in Kenya? Would you buy Made in Kenya? Let me know. The hashtag is Business Now at Citizen TV Kenya and at Yvonne Okwara. I'll tell you who my guests are in a moment. But first, let's take a quick look now at stories that are making headlines this afternoon. Beginning with the government that has installed a 275 kilovolt amp power supply and connectivity project. The government says it'll supply electricity to all the residents in the area within 2 weeks. Energy CS Charles Keter revealed the government has set aside 1.2 billion shillings for Garissa County, which will be used to set up and supply hybrid power connectivity from both solar and diesel to boreholes and all schools. Elsewhere, some retailers in the country have continued with their strategic expansion of taking up space occupied by rival supermarket chains. Naivas opened its 74th branch in the lakeside city of Kisumu over the weekend. The Naivas Chief Commercial Officer Willie Kimani says they're partnering with their suppliers to ensure customers get value for money. In Kericho, little-known Kipchimat supermarket opened a new branch in town. The retailer takes over space that was formerly occupied by Tuskys and Nakumatt supermarkets. Kipchimat has branches in Bomet, Kapsabet, Liten and Kapsoit. And finally, Tourism and Wildlife Cabinet Secretary Najib Balala has challenged the government to invest more resources to the Kenya Wildlife Service to make it more efficient in its conservation activity. Balala says the agency had a backlog of more than 14 billion shillings compensation claims yet to be honored to victims of human-wildlife conflict. He spoke during the launch of the KWS strategic plan for 2021 to 2024. All right, so would you buy Made in Kenya? Or would you patronize a company that's providing goods or services that are solely made in the country? That's what we're talking about today. Here are my guests on the show this afternoon, starting off with Peter Scott, who's the CEO, founder of Burn Manufacturing Company and also the founder of Burn Design. They're the makers of Jiko Okoa and also a recipient of the Made in Kenya logo from Keproba. Also, another recipient of that Made in Kenya logo is Grace Mbugua. She's the CEO of Jailer Collections, manufacturer of leather products like belts and bags. You'll be seeing her and more of her products. Victor Otieno, not a stranger to this show, from Vifa Consult, here to talk to us about MSMEs and how they are working to do that. And finally, we've got Mushai Kunyiha, who is the chair, Mushai is the chair of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. All right, so it is time for the 5 today. Now, the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya initiative was developed in 2017 by the Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development following a presidential directive. Now, it's all about boosting the local manufacturing sector by authenticating goods and services that originate from the country. But it came at a time when Kenyan-made products were associated with poor quality. The companies had low skill levels, and so the Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency developed the Made in Kenya initiative. Now, it is a process that results in a Made in Kenya mark or a Made in Kenya seal, and it's given to companies whose products or services are, of course, solely made in the country, or at least in a great part. Now, of course, this is to give consumers the assurance of quality and authentication of the true Kenyan identity. But not just anyone can put this mark on their products. There is a criteria provided. Now, I know typically here this segment is called the 5, but allow me to break the rules today because I want to give you that criteria, and there are 6 in number. Let's, of course, start off with the very first one, which is all about location. Now, this is the first one here. Now, with respect to location, the companies must be located in Kenya. Now, as for employment, the Kenyan employees in that company seeking this logo must be the majority. That is at least 50%. Also, the company seeking this certification must be compliant with statutory requirements like tax compliance, registration certificates. Now, the companies should not be insolvent and should not have been debarred from public procurement. The companies must also be certified. They must bear the mark of the Kenya Bureau of Standards or any other recognized certifications that are specific to their industry. Now, here's another one on product design, which must be wholly or partially mined or produced in Kenya. And finally, the 6th criteria is that the country of origin of each significant component of the goods that are produced must be Kenyan, as outlined in the EAC Customs Union Rules of Origin. Now, what are the benefits of the mark, you may ask? With this seal, your company can benefit from the preferential procurement by government agencies in line with Section 155 of the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act that states that 40% of the public procurement budget by ministries and state departments be reserved for locally produced goods and services. The companies also get, as a result of this mark, access to financing, promotional services and training from the brand agency. So far, 139 companies have successfully adopted the Made in Kenya logo. 2 of them are here with me on the show today. That's the 5, Made in Kenya. And the hashtag is Business Now. This is our Made in Kenya series. We're kicking it off today. Don't forget, we're focusing on another business, and we'll be showing you that story in a moment, or at least a little later on the show. But first, let's get into our discussion on this series. I'll be showing you again who the other guests are, but I'd like to begin with Mushai Kunyiha, who's the chair of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. Thank you so much, Mushai, for making time for us on Business Now today. Let me start by asking you why this even matters. Why Buy Kenya, Build Kenya? Why insist on having local manufacturing? Of what benefit is it to the manufacturers, to consumers, and to the country's economy?
Okay, thank you very much, Yvonne. And thanks so much to your program for highlighting this issue, which is a big issue CAM has been living on and trying to highlight over the years. So manufacturing is critical because of the jobs that you create here and the wealth that you live here. Any country in the world wants to grow wealth and prosperity because that's what's going to help our people develop, move forward. If we are working here and making things, we are adding value to something here and trading with it amongst ourselves, it immediately helps us as a country to grow our economy. Because again, it's like passing on money to your brother, to your neighbor, rather than sending it across the oceans to other people. And of course, it's creating jobs for people who are here because they're able to work. And beyond the jobs, it's also creating investment, because there are factories, there are probably financiers, there are investors in those businesses that are going to create wealth out of what they're going to be doing related to the manufacturing sector. More critically, I think, and especially for Africa at the moment, is about how we add value to our resources. Because everywhere in the world you have resources. We have agricultural produce, we have timber, we have rocks in the ground, minerals, and so on. It's whether you send them out with value added to them or you just send them out raw. So manufacturing allows you to add value to the same things that you had, and that will gain more revenue and income for your local markets. Thanks, Yvonne.
And can we highlight some of the challenges that local manufacturers face? I mean, we keep hearing about this, but might be good to hear from you about, consistent supply of things like electricity at an affordable cost, among, many other issues that would then make that value addition you speak of much easier.
Much easier, yeah. I think, Yvonne, I don't know how long you have and how much you want the other speakers to participate. This could go on forever if we start talking about our issue. But let's start. I think fundamentally the big picture is competitiveness. So Kenya we've set ourselves up as a free market economy. And in a free market economy, what you're saying is people will exchange goods based on supply and demand. And it is people asking if a customer wants something and somebody else can supply it to them, they are open to do it, which also means we are open to external markets. We are open to imports from other countries and so on. So then the key thing for anybody in manufacturing or supplying goods is your competitiveness. Am I meeting the demand? Because demand is one part of it, and at a good price, because then that becomes the key issue. So one of the big challenges we have as big picture, and we're trying to push this to parliament, to government, is to understand we are in a global economy. We must be competitive. So when you start putting in taxes, regulations, the price of power, the labor conditions, and so on, you need to look globally with our neighbors nearby, with people far afield. Are we making these competitive? Are they going to allow us to continue to meet that demand at a price that is competitive to others? Are the same restrictions being put on other manufacturers who are in other countries, for instance? So, for instance, right now, in the new finance bill, we get new taxes on packaging. There's a new tax on packaging, which is going to affect things like oil, and this is cooking oil and so on. And this is at a time when cooking oil prices are rising. So you put an excise tax on the packaging. If I bring the product package from another country, I don't pay the excise tax. So you're making my local manufacturer less competitive than any other global player. So that starts becoming a challenge. And we must start thinking about how do we develop our competitiveness. That is what is going to make us succeed as manufacturers in Kenya.
And thanks for that, Mushai. Victor, here with me in studio, making us globally competitive. Correct me if I'm wrong, is that even harder for SMEs?
Of course. I think there's something that we must note in terms of government strategy, in terms of supporting manufacturers. I think there's an irony in the sense that government on one hand is saying we want to support local, but on the other hand is pursuing strategies that works against local manufacturers. And I'll give you an example of AGOA. Where Kenyan government has made a pact with the US to get second-hand clothes. Of course, second-hand goods. Of course, by the virtue that they are second-hand, it means that the cost of local manufacturers cannot compete. That's number one. Number two is the UK trade agreement, where again a lot of UK manufacturers receive a lot of subsidies. Again, it works against local manufacturers. And for me, that conundrum is still in my mind. I'm wondering, are we serious in terms of do we really want to support local manufacturers?
And is there a market for made in Kenya? This is my experience, and it's purely anecdotal. So you're on Instagram, and people are doing all sorts of things. You know, body butters, people are, you know, it's really cottage industry, people doing it in their backyards, in their kitchens, people doing all, I mean, producing just about anything you can imagine. And that should, is that the case? That should say something. And you know, on the much smaller scale, you know, even if you were to take a look at the micro aspect of the MSME sector, you know, is there a demand for made in Kenya? Because maybe about 10, 15 years ago, one of the issues was, you know, quality of the product, low-level skilled workers, you know, and producers. Has that changed over time?
I think we have a big problem in terms of the way we perceive local products. Yeah. Probably it could be a social orientation or something. Okay. We always feel that products from outside are better than local products. And of course, there are two sides to that conversation, in the sense that local products are not consistent, and consistency is part of quality. But I think local manufacturers over time have been able to do that. But I think from a Kenyan perspective, we still have that perception that something from outside is always better than local.
But in some instances, it's cheaper. The products are cheaper. Of
course, it's cheaper, but
naturally, I mean, you know, economies of scale, they're able to produce in larger volumes than we are.
Agreed, but there is a level of patriotism that you need for you to be able to sustain local demand. Yeah. If you go to Nigeria, for example, they would buy their own fabric. But if you come to Kenya, then I would rather have a foreign product coming.
Mm-hmm. Let's speak to them here, actually, because we've been talking about them. But let's talk to them now, because they're here with us. Let me begin with you, Grace. Grace Mbugua is the CEO of Jailer Collections. You make leather products, right? Like bags and belts. And you are a recipient of the Made in Kenya logo, right? From the Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency. So first of all, speak to us about your journey and why you're choosing to have all your products, all your raw materials are sourced locally. And yes, your staff. Yeah. So talk to us about your business.
Okay, Jailer Collections is a young company. We are about 6 years now. And our agenda is to provide that quality product he's talking about. Mm-hmm. That if you go to our shop, you'll find that leather quality product, leather bag, leather accessories, and they are well done. I'm excited to say that being a Kenyan, I would love to see the skills I'm also utilizing are for another Kenyan who is also providing for us the accessories and the items that we require. So we make the leather from our tanneries. We buy the leather from all local tanneries. You request what you want and you make your order and you get the quality. That I can affirm to you. I still think that there's a lot of learning, especially for certain types of leather, like for clothing. It's still not yet being done. So there's still room for expansion. So sourcing locally has worked very well for us. Some of the accessories are actually not still produced locally. Certain zips that I want are not from Kenya. For the leather products. Yeah. So as much as I want to source everything locally, there are certain items that I may not fully get. Now, that is what I would say on that side. However, for me, I'm happy to see when I source a certain accessory. I'll give you an example. We do brass. We use a lot of brass for finishing for the bags. I will get it from groups in Logai or Kibera. They actually make very fine, good quality finishes. So I don't need to buy from anybody else. So as much as the countries go on to provide us with certain items, our Kenyan companies are able to provide with us items that we still need.
Okay. Let me ask about the cost. You know, leather is, when you buy a leather product, you know it's going to cost, you know, different from something that's not leather or plastic, if you like. Is it cheaper for you to, would it be cheaper for you to source some of your products or a good number of them from abroad?
I haven't attempted to do that because I have been able to get them
because you've been able to find just as much as you want.
Anything that I don't have locally, I'm able to source from those who are able to bring them here. So that again is the part I was saying. It may bring some level of expenses, but let me say that since we started using the logo, I have seen some certain interest. Kenyans have also started to appreciate what is made in Kenya. It has the challenges. He said that we still need to do a lot of publicity, education, and value, and changing the perception that our products are not necessarily good. But if you go out of the country, you'll find made in Kenya products. But they're out there because export market appreciates our products.
Okay.
So locally,
Sadly.
it's work to be done.
Okay, yeah, and that's an interesting thing about how, the Made in Kenya logo perhaps is more beneficial, in the export market than it is in the local market. And we'll come back and talk a little bit more about the benefits that you have seen with that Made in Kenya logo, in as far as pushing your business. But some interesting insights on what you're doing and how you're able to source, quite a bit of this material that is good quality and high quality locally. Peter, you're with Burn Manufacturing. Now, when people say Burn Manufacturing, what's that? But when they say Jikokoa, then, we sort of have an idea. Talk to us about the journey and why you chose these products and yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm a huge proponent of local manufacturing, and we've really built our business around local manufacturing. So we started in 2013, and our focus was to design the world's most fuel-efficient makaa stove and wood stove, and then make those locally here in Kenya. And so currently, we employ 400 people. We've made and sold over 1.1 million Jikos. Those have all been made here in Riru. All of the R&D is here. All the manufacturing is here. So that it's interesting, when we first launched, we really promoted that the stove was designed in the USA, and we were kind of silent on where the stove was made, because there was this idea of like maybe a local product was going to be low quality. But now when we do our market research, because people know Jikokoa and they love Jikokoa and they love the fact that it's manufactured locally, and we find that like 70–80% of our customers want to buy it because, and so now we're actually promoting that it's made locally, whereas in the past we kind of were silent on it. I think there's really a revolution happening in Kenya right now in terms of manufacturing. We can beat the Chinese on price, performance, durability, all of those things. And yeah, there's still this idea of like, oh, it's made in Kenya, it's probably not as good as somewhere else. But really, we've built the world's most successful clean cook stove company. And there's nothing else like it in the world of what we're doing here. And the center of cook stove research and manufacturing is now in Kenya.
What was the process like getting the Made in Kenya logo? We just listed the criteria at the start of the show. But, was that a hectic process? Was it tedious? Was it, take us through that and why you sought that?
Yeah, it actually was not a very difficult process because we had already checked all of those boxes. If we hadn't, it might have been more difficult. Yeah. It's interesting. There's like to get the certificate of origin, you need to show 35% value add. But, for us, we've not just done assembly, but full manufacturing. So we're not just taking parts made in China or Turkey or something and assembling. We're doing the full, like, raw materials in, finished goods out. So it was very easy for us to meet this 40% criteria, certificate of origin. Yeah, and it's interesting. It's been a great positive for us. And even when we sell stoves to say like Somalia or the Horn of Africa, is that, we've actually, when we first started making a stove and selling it into Somalia, we did change the packaging to make it look more Somali. But people said, no, that's probably a knockoff. We want the Kenya original. Right. So our like some cool Somali packaging sells for less than our authentic original packaging. Okay. So people really see this as like, oh, we know now globally, Burn Jikokoa makes the best stove in the world. We want the original. We want to be certain it's made in Kenya. And so the Made in Kenya, brand Kenya logo is really key for that. Okay, all right, and we'll come back to that. I don't know if Mushai is still with us here. Mushai, on a larger scale, perhaps quite a few of those issues that we've talked about, taxes, but I wonder what this means for the MSME sector, the really smaller businesses that are, working out of their kitchens, working out of their backyards. What is manufacturing like for them? And, are there any challenges that are specific to them than those who are perhaps in the larger sector?
Yes, thanks, Yvonne. Sorry, my internet dropped off temporarily. But I think that the regulatory environment is a big challenge, both for large and small players. And it's worse for the small player because in a larger player, if you take some of the larger manufacturing, they actually have a department that deals with this, corporate affairs, regulatory, they have quality people. So they have enough people. But if you're a small operator, you find the entrepreneur, the founder of the business is trying to do all of this work at the same time. And that can be quite challenging for them when they have too many rules to follow up. So like last week, we had a boot camp for the different entrepreneurs, trying to tell them and show them the way on how to deal with different regulators along the supply chain. What we advocate for, we do need regulation. So let's not say we don't need regulation at all. It ensures there's quality, it ensures there's consistency and some level playing field, as well as protecting consumers so they know what they're getting. But how you implement those rules, how easy it is to follow the rules, is what is the challenge. And it's usually also a problem when they keep changing them and making them not user-friendly. So, for instance, you'll be asked to go to KEBS, produce certain documents, and keep going back, and perhaps you have to take them manually. Some of these regulators are now going online, which makes it much easier for people to comply. And perhaps also how we set those standards and the requirement, we can make it much easier for the MSMEs and the SMEs to get qualified. KRA is another example where actually among the local regulators, we say they've moved the most. With things like iTax and so on, you're able to deal with most of your taxation issues online, but it's not all of them, and there are still challenges that would affect any person. Where we have the biggest challenge, I think, is where the counties come in. Yeah. Because the counties have so many regulations changing and less developed systems on how you're going to be able to address those regulators. In addition, now we are getting more and more new regulators, like in agriculture now. We've gotten some new regulations on produce recently and asking you to pay taxes. That again means if you're a small player, you have to go all the way, find where the AFA office are, try and get all these forms and fill in new regulations and so on. And that is a real burden for a lot of producers.
Indeed, Mushai, somebody here agrees with you on Twitter. One of our viewers is called Brown Sankale, says, he says, I'm a manufacturer of electronic equipments. My products are of high quality, but the number of costs of licenses from the county government, the Kenya Revenue Authority, government registration. I moved to the Philippines and my products are selling a lot. Why not here? So, you know, some anecdotal, you know, evidence of just what you were saying there, Mushai. So, Victor, you know, this is where we are. And like Mushai says, it's harder and it impacts, you know, much higher on the smaller players in the sector. So now we have a Made in Kenya initiative, making attempts to say, look, these are the companies, this is the criteria that we want, you know, go through this and, you know, then that helps. Is that enough?
I think I think it's a good initiative on one hand, but I think there has to be a level of cascading of that Made in Kenya to the people you're calling cottage manufacturers, the informal sector manufacturers. If we can be able to have a similar certification of sorts, it could give an indication of quality at that level. One of the things that I think Kenyans struggle with in terms of quality or perception of quality is, for example, if I was to go to Kariokor Market, there is that perception that it's low quality. But if you can be able to get a similar certification for either for Kariokor Market or the different products that are there, that could raise the perception of quality of local manufacturers. And I think also there's an opportunity for Kenya in terms of manufacturing globally. If you notice, countries such as Vietnam, China, etc., have been highly labor-intensive markets in terms of manufacturing. And they're slowly moving towards automation. There's an opportunity for local manufacturers, the informal sector manufacturers, to move into that space where we do high labor or labor-intensive, you know, manufacturing, which can be able to absorb a lot of the youth that are idle.
Because manufacturing, you know, is labor-intensive. Yes, yes. I believe I read some statistics a couple of years ago that, you know, manufacturing for what would be one job in any other sector, in manufacturing is anywhere 7 to 9 you know, persons, so it would be able to sort out quite a few of these issues. We're due for a break in a short moment, but Grace, let's have you weigh in on, you know, where this goes next for you? Like, you know, is there automation? Is that what you're considering? Because a lot of, you know, where you're sourcing your products, you know, you've gotten the certification, but have they gotten the certification, you know, at their level? And do you feel that, you know, maybe that is necessary in some way to just, you know, continue to ensure the consistency and quality of the raw materials and the components that you require?
For us, one thing that I would say that I appreciate is the trainings that goes with this certification. Yeah. We are beneficiary also of the training of product development at the KEPROBA, and we are still going through that training. And I think I would encourage most in this sector to actually go for these trainings, because the training gives you the ability to appreciate quality and its impact on your end user of your product. So if you don't have that, you lose out on something. So for trainings, the government has, the KEPROBA team actually has been going all over the country, and they come and spend time with you, giving feedback, helping you to understand also the export market, and also how to make your product very competitive. I think that is one of the things they have raised. Secondly, I think trainings also for your own internal staffing is very critical. When you say automation, for now, I'm tapping into the artisan skills, and you know that there are certain
all
things
your products are handmade.
They are handmade
from start to finish.
The finishing, there are at certain points we use machines for finishing, but everything else is handmade. So you see, that's a skill and gives opportunities for employment for the young people, and also the trainings that we do, especially for leather, because it's not just produced that way. And I think maybe on the area that he mentioned on Kariakor market, I think for me would be to intensify on trainings, to upgrade on where they are, because creativity is so much in their products. But sometimes along the way, and the quick, you know, you want to quickly finish, and also because of turnaround, the numbers and everything, you lose out on quality. So for me, I think the trainings in investing on them would be critical. And also, again, when it comes to increasing the number who have the mark, I think trainings and also understanding what is it that you need. And because for us, we also got the exposure of all these other agencies through one meeting by the government, organized to meet the KEBS, the KIPI, and the tax people. We all met there and to understand what is it that I require for me to get the certifications for each of those sections.
Okay, before we take that break, if you were to, how many people do you employ at JLO Collections? How big is your organization? And if you were to take a look at the value chain, across the value chain, how many people do you think, I don't know if you're able to quantify or estimate at least, you know, from the persons who give you the brass to the, you know, the leather tanneries where you go to, what do you think is the impact, social impact of your company?
The social impact, I may not give you the numbers in terms of what, but I can tell you, okay, the staff, we are 28. And then you also have the other ones that you have from outside, whom you engage for
so besides the ones who make the brass?
There's the ones who make the brass. Bidding, we do a lot of bidding. So we use Maasai women from Gong and others from Isinya area. So you give them the materials, they actually produce for you, and you work with them on the design and the quality. They actually do what you require. So I have those groups. Then I also say we buy our fabric from it's called Thicker Mills. Thicker Mills makes, and they can pattern for you, they can make the colors that you want, and they give you the products that you require. So that is also somewhere else that you're also sourcing from. Yeah, so at the end of it all, you are impacting different sectors, but I must say that our immediate impact is also for the communities. We engage, when we have big orders, because we do materials for like corporates when they have, they need items. So we engage communities. We've trained some women they are in organized groups. They each come together in one congregated place. They come with their machines. We train them, and they produce for us what we require.
Okay, all right. I haven't forgotten about you, Peter. I just need to take a break. So we shall be back, talk a little bit more about that. And don't forget, you know, just a quick teaser also, we kick off today our very first Made in Kenya feature series. We'll be speaking to various entrepreneurs. Today, it's all about turning plastic waste into fencing poles. It's something you don't want to miss. That and much more with my guests after this break. Yeah, because there will be days, remember, when the topic isn't made in Kenya. So if you do it in the middle, yeah, cool. And we are back. The hashtag is Business Now on Twitter. Thank you so much for your great feedback. I want to read one from Jacob Abere Matlala. You say, made in Kenya on production and market is achievable. What slows it down are patent time, foreign product mentality, which we've talked about here, lack of strong policies in helping infant industries like funding, research and market search as China does for its people. And again, to maximize made in Kenya product use, we need to give subsidies, infrastructure developments, free electricity, I'm not sure about the free part, and cultivate self-product ambassadors like His Excellency, the President, with the cotton brand shirts from Rivertex and the Korogosho Ankaras that are sold in Canada. Keep your thoughts coming. Many of you saying, yes, you would, in fact, buy Kenya, build Kenya. That's the rallying call since 2017, I believe, when this was, finally now, made a little bit more formal than it has been in previous years. So, Peter, with Jikokoa, talk to us about, the social impact of what you do. So, in terms of, how many, what the workforce size is, but then also just, across the value chain.
Sure, of course, yeah. So as I mentioned, we've sold about 1.15 million of those stoves, and they've really made a transformative impact. A recent study by UC Berkeley showed that each household was saving about 12,000 shillings, that the total net benefit to society was 1,000 USD over 3 years from reduction in health costs, greenhouse gases, and fuel savings. So it really has been a transformational product on the planet. Like when you look at what's happening in Africa right now, there's 1.1 billion people. By 2050, it'll be 2 billion people. 1.6 billion of those people are still going to be using wood and charcoal. It's an economic catastrophe. It's an ecological catastrophe. It's like a health catastrophe. So Kenya has the ability to actually transform the whole continent by building super fuel efficient stoves here. So the government really needs to think about a long play, like how do we win? Now with the Africa Free Trade Agreement coming into effect, Kenya can absolutely win. So we're negotiating deals now to do, tens of millions of stoves across the continent that will help people, save lives and forests and all those things, if we create the right enabling environment. So I think Kenya government has done a good job, but certain things like they put VAT back on clean cooking, which is crazy because it's absolutely not a pro-poor policy. The people that are burning 3-stone fires are the ones that are suffering from pulmonary issues. So we designed the world's most fuel efficient household wood stove that reduces emissions by 80%. Now you're putting a VAT on that. It's absolutely not helping the poor. So we're hoping, the government's done, we've worked with the government closely and with CAM, but we're really hoping that they'll think about this long play. It's not just for helping people, but also it's the ability for economic transformation.
Okay, so, I want to, because I'm still with you, to get your closing comments on, made in Kenya. Do Kenyans care? Your experience with your products, do Kenyans care about buying products that they think are authentically made in Kenya and that have that identity? We're just laughing during the break about, what you'd said earlier, that, you take the products to Somalia and you try to sort of localize them and they're like, no, get us the original product. We know what it looks like, and this is not it, and it's fine that it's made in Kenya, and you know, they were willing to buy that. Maybe locally versus you know, foreign, because you know, Grace mentioned the fact that you know, made in Kenya is big business in terms of export. Is it as recognizable and more appreciated here as well?
Once you've proven the quality, people love that it's Kenyan made. But I think that until people are really certain that the quality is there, and so that the after sales there, and the warranty is there, and all of those things. So people know when you buy a product from China, the warranty maybe is going to be like, you know, you're going to call Shenzhen and ask them to replace your product. So because Byrne is local and will service the warranty, and there's warranty centers and all those things, that people love that. And like our staff love it. So, you know, we have people who've been with me for 8 years who love the fact that we're doing this mission-driven business and we're producing this very high quality product. You know, it's like 99.97 right first-time production coming out of our factory. The idea that you can't make quality in Kenya is insane and antiquated and from a different century. So yeah, as long as you're delivering quality, people seem to love the Kenya symbol.
Absolutely. Grace, your final thoughts?
On my side, yes, I have seen that, because we have a shop at the Hub, Karen, and one of the things that I've noticed, people ask, are you sure these are made in Kenya? Because I want to buy if they're made from Kenya. So I've gotten that feedback. It's an African-themed shop. We sell everything made in Kenya and made by SMEs, because we put together our efforts. And one thing that I've noticed, and I can tell you, is as much as we continue putting that face, and this is mentioned, the president wearing the shirt, that also has
He's the biggest brand ambassador for
and
influencer, social media, if you like, maybe not intentionally, but
Yes, it is, because we sell shirts that are African materials, and that really creates that, the fact that there's a shirt even called by people that Uhuru shirts, because it's long sleeved and the colors are.
Is it like the one with the red and the calabash?
No, the one with the like trees.
Yes. Okay, I know.
So I think one thing that you realize is, as we continue in having a lot of publicity around made in Kenya, the quality also being seen by being worn by our president, gives you some message that the quality is good. So I think that is one thing that we must be working on. But again, we also have to go in and appreciate that we keep complaining about employment of Kenyans. If we buy Kenya, we create opportunities, because that translates to somebody's income. So I would encourage that Kenyans also buy our products. They are good. They are good quality because they are made here. And then secondly, if we are making like our leather products, when you have any like shining or cleaning, or because leather will last for a long time. So you want some cleaning, we give you for free until you want another bag. So that's one thing that I would encourage, that the quality and the feedback, the support is here with you. So if you have a problem with any of the items, your Kenyans are here. Their products are produced here.
The after-sales support that you know Peter was talking about as well. You know, with a warranty, that you know that there is somebody locally that you can say, you know, hey, I bought this product, and you know, either I needed upgraded or tweaked or you know, whatever it is, and that is available locally as opposed to buying imported. Okay, thanks for that, Grace. Victor, your closing comments. We're making some strides, no?
Yeah, we do. And I would want to just state one point, is that in Kenya there are two kinds of entrepreneurs. There are the small businesses who cannot formalize. And it's food for thought for government and other stakeholders to find incentives enough to enable small businesses to be able to formalize, because there are, of course, benefits to being formal, in the sense that you can be able to access bigger markets in the EAC, etc. But there are also entrepreneurs who want to formalize but lack information. And this is where we need to give government credit, in the sense that if you look at the Ministry of EAC and Regional Development, under the ease of doing business, have been able to develop a portal where for those entrepreneurs who want to formalize, it's a website where you can be able to get all the information that you want in terms of compliance. It's a
simple checklist of sorts.
Very simple. You can check it out, Kenya Regulatory business.co.ke. You can be able to just get all the information that you need, for you to be able to formalize your business.
Okay, and some of them don't formalize. Do they all have to formalize?
They don't have to. And
because one of the criteria for made in Kenya is that, you know, you have to be formal.
And I agree. And that's why I say there are two kinds of entrepreneurs. There are those who formalization is too expensive. The cost benefit of formalization is too much.
Right.
But there are also those who it's just lack of information. Okay. And we have a portal where you can be able to just access and be able to formalize.
Okay. All right. Okay. And finding information on that. Mushai, if you're still with us, your final thoughts before we close?
Yes, thanks. I want to agree with all the manufacturers there, and I'm glad they all are members who are on the forum today. I think the one bit we didn't really talk about is exports, because we're talking about local manufacturing. But when we talked about the quality that is required, it is basically export quality, because you want to be able to compete in the world. And our encouragement to all the manufacturers is, when you're making something, think about your global competitiveness. Is it something that it matches the quality of, you know, global quality standards, or how close is it? Sometimes it doesn't need to be the best, it doesn't need to be at the top, but it's matching there. That's what you're looking at. And also the pricing. Can I match that pricing or that costing? Because that's where your competition is going to come from. So you want to see that you're matching global standards in that sense. And one of the things that I think it was Grace who mentioned earlier is like training and continuous development. Even in the large corporations, you find there's always a product development aspect. So even if you made belts, say, or like Grace makes bags now, you're constantly developing new ones, constantly training your people and trying to move forward. At CAM, we have different training platforms for both, you know, large and small manufacturers and also MSMEs in things like Kaizen, quality, and so on, so that you can actually develop that. You need to grow on that level if you're going to grow your business, and make it consistent. Because again, one area you've talked about is what is the quality and the consistency. You have to build a brand. People need to know that your product is worth it. And I think that was demonstrated in the Burns story. On the export side also, remember Kenya's goal in the Big Four was to get manufacturing to 15% of our GDP. The way we are going to grow it is if we have export markets. And so whoever is producing, we still need to think about what can we give to the world from the resources that we have here? What can we make that the world needs? And that's how we're going to grow our manufacturing to 15% and beyond. If you look at all the big manufacturing nations of the world, export is a big proportion of that. And you can't export everything. You can't manufacture everything. You just need to find those niches. Those things that you make, which are best in the world, are global standard. And so we need to encourage our people. They have the ideas, and I love what we are hearing, even in the conversations going on last week on Made in Kenya. You see, people are innovative. People are doing different wonderful things which we can actually export. So we want to build on those and put more wind in their sails so that we can grow into a big manufacturing nation. Thanks, Yvonne.
Thank you for that, Mushai Kuniha, who's the chair of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, and that is important for us to get into. I want to run you by our Made in Kenya feature series, because there's quite a bit of feedback, but I will get to that as we close the show. But Kenya's capital, Nairobi, generates 2,400 tons of waste every day, 20% of which is plastic. For Joel Alogo, an entrepreneur, this trash is cash. And as Edward Chue reports, Joel collects huge tons of plastic waste daily, which he converts into durable fencing poles and building material.
This billowing smoke could easily cheat your eyes into believing some heap of rubbish is being reduced into ashes. The black substance coming out with this heavy smoke is not lava from a volcanic eruption, but rather the final product that can last the next 30 years. Born and raised around the Dandora dam site in this billowing smoke could easily cheat your eyes into believing some heap of rubbish is being reduced into ashes. The black substance coming out with this heavy smoke is not lava from a volcanic eruption, but rather the final product that can last the next 30 years. Born and raised around the Dandora dump site in Nairobi, Joel knows all too well the effects of poor waste management and the risks of environmental degradation. These gave rise to his Vigingi Africa initiative, which makes fencing poles from plastic waste.
I saw the need to solve a problem and make my environment better. We use two types of plastics, PP plastic, used to manufacture polythene bags, and HDP plastic, used to manufacture plastic containers. We source our raw materials from the youths in the slum areas.
This is plastic waste dumped daily across Nairobi by the over 5 million residents, which makes 20% of the total solid waste generated daily in the capital.
Hiyo ni waste yetu tumesiaga.
It is a daunting but rewarding process.
We identified centers where they can be collecting, and in these centers we've placed our grinders to crush the plastics. This is our raw material as it comes in, and at this unit we weigh them, we bring it to the mixing section, we pass through the magnet to remove foreign metals that might be found. We take them into the extruder. The plastic is molded and then fixed into a mold. And then once the mold is full, we cool it down in a water bath. The plastic content shrinks by around 1 millimeter round. That makes it easier to remove it from the mold.
Turning plastic waste into poles and building material is a relatively new venture and entails intense processing. But the final product is durable, all-weather, and gives good returns.
They are insect-free, they are more hygienic, and they also rust-free. Long-term, we are cheaper than both wooden and concrete poles. We are able to achieve 150 poles a day.
While there has been debate on whether Kenya's manufacturing sector is stable enough and going the right direction, Joel believes the government should do more to cushion local manufacturers from foreign imports that flood the market.
We don't feel that they are doing enough, because if we are producing locally and our cost of production is higher than someone who is getting the goods, same goods from China, it means there's a lot that needs to be done. One of the biggest challenges is the penetration of the product in the market. Our products can be used with nails and screws.
Joel's venture is an indication that Kenya is full of potential and can make its own products and provide its own services. Edward Chweya, Business Now, Citizen TV.
That is the debut of our Made in Kenya series. There will be a story like that every single week here on the program, highlighting lots of companies that are doing big things locally and living up to the standards and the quality. I want to take a look at some of the feedback we have on the show today. Peter Kariuki says, I would be so proud to buy Made in Kenya. However, corruption that goes all the way to certification makes it so difficult to ascertain quality. Looking forward to hearing how this concern is being addressed. Well, not very specific about it, but you know, hey. Anne Gishoy says, great move to highlight Kenyan entrepreneurs. That's the right way forward. Kudos. Thank you for that. And this is a tweet that I should actually read because I resonate with this very well. It's from Burn Manufacturing. You say we boast of having one of the highest female employment rates at 60% at our manufacturing plant in Ruiru, Kenya. So what we're talking about, labor intensive and doing that particularly with female employment. So good stuff with that one. And then here's another one. These are quite a few tweets from the Kenya Association of Manufacturers as well. I've already read Brian's issue. Here's another one from Zangi Granola, I imagine. You say getting a startup premise that's convenient and affordable for startups in Kenya is an uphill task. Getting local manufacturers for standard packaging, there is none. You have to import from China. Is that so? Packaging? That's interesting. Okay, yeah. Where is the government in support of startups? Morris says, yes, that's the best way to promote authentic Kenyan brands and products. And T. Mwangemi says, if more than 60% of the raw materials should come from Kenya, how is it that things like steel are expensive? This is just one of the many examples. And Ronald Eli Wanda says, I always buy local. It is the best way to safeguard our local industrial development, except for wines. Okay. All right. Yeah. And by the way, there's some good, and this is not promotion because I'm not mentioning any brands, but there's some very good wineries in Meru, of all places, right next to the Meru National Park. Here's one last one. Let me read this one for you. At Nyakwar says, some of the universities like the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, my alma mater, are producing many products like mushrooms, honey. Can't they produce them on a large scale and sell them in supermarkets and for export abroad as well? So thank you. So some great feedback on that there. This is definitely the show that celebrates the MSME sector, and best believe we'll have another segment like that for you again next week. And going by the list we have, we'll be doing this for weeks, months, even years to come, for as long as God gives us breath. Thank you very much for watching the show today. That's where we leave it at. Made in Kenya. Go buy, something made in Kenya. Even the wines, I'm sure they'll surprise you. My name is Yvonne Okwara Matole. My great thanks to Peter Scott, Grace Mbugwa, Victor Otieno, and Mushai